I have personally experienced how the diagnosis of leukemia can ultimately change your life forever. My name is Colleen Solomon, and my preferred research theme concerns the relationship between leukemia and children, as well as the effects of cancer treatments and how those treatments correlate with a child's quality of life. In early February 2012, at about 5:30 a.m., my father, John Drury, was taken by ambulance to the hospital. My son Lane was just under a year old, so I stayed at home anticipating to hear of any news. It was later that evening that I learned that my father was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia and had contracted a rare case of pneumonia. Both his mother and father died early premature deaths from cancer. At first he seemed optimistic about the prognosis as the doctor explained the rigorous rounds of chemotherapy and the 3-week intervals that he would face in and out of the hospital. But as a few days passed, his pneumonia worsened and he was struggling to breathe. I could tell he was getting aggravated because he couldn't get any relief. He couldn't eat and he was tired of lying in a hospital bed. I remember February 9th, he called our family and friends over to his bed to tell us that he was ready to die. He told us that having leukemia and being in and out of the hospital was certainly not a good quality of life, and that he would rather go home and be with the Lord than to be here on earth fighting this disease. It was moments later that my father went into respiratory failure and was intubated, in possible hopes that we could save his life. I watched as my father declined over the next few days and became totally dependent on oxygen. A round of chemo was administered, as well as multiple blood pressure medicines and even dialysis. At about 11:20 on February 14th, my father went home to be with the Lord. He was 50 years old. Experiencing my father's death was by far the most difficult thing that I had ever faced. I looked to him for guidance, and when he died, it was as if my life's compass had been broken. Not only was he special to me, but he had made such a lifelong impression in the lives of so many others. He was extremely active in our church, serving as a Sunday school teacher, a youth leader. He also worked in the concession stand at our church softball field, as well as other various community projects. There were over 1,000 people at his viewing, and people were standing at his funeral because there was no room. Leukemia has become such a huge part of my life because it took someone so dear to me away, and I have formed this enormous curiosity to absolutely everything about it. You can probably understand after my explanation how choosing the research topic was quite effortless. I did, however, choose to focus on childhood leukemia because 1/3 of the deaths from childhood cancers are from leukemia, and cancer remains the leading cause of death from disease among children under the age of 15 years old. I believe the value of this research information can be captivating by leukemia victims themselves, family members, and other researchers. I hope to target this audience and bring to the table useful information and, more importantly, create an open mind and argue factual accounts of life of these victims. I choose this particular audience because they are the individuals who understand firsthand and experience the effects of the leukemia. I predict a mixture of responses concerning the topic I have chosen because the opinions of my target audience stem from personal accounts, and everyone has different thoughts and feelings. Parents of children with leukemia may agree or disagree about treatment options. Researchers should go into the subject open-minded, curious to discover facts and information to confirm or contradict their already established opinion. However, it is my objective to support the feelings of the patient, the child. Oftentimes, the parents can become overwhelmed consenting to the administration of treatment and drugs. But what they don't do is take a step back and think about the effects that it brings upon their child. Percentages of second or reoccurring cancers are extremely high in cancer childhood victims. I encourage my readers to broaden their thinking and focus their understanding to the helpless child who is most often too young to make medical decisions for themselves. I have studied for 7 weeks now, plundering through multiple articles in a plethora of legitimate and credible databases that our college has to offer. I have also scanned through library books that are credible as well, and ventured to look through the not-so-credible internet. A wonderful illustration of my topic is portrayed in my favorite movie, My Sister's Keeper, based on a novel written by Julie Picoult. The movie depicts an adolescent named Kate growing weary of her fight with leukemia, and it illuminates firsthand the grueling details of her quality of life. Kate's sister Anna was a product of a pre-implantation genetic diagnosis and was conceived as a bone marrow match. As Anna gets older, Kate actually forces and directs her to seek medical emancipation from her parents, who have relied on their youngest child to help their leukemia-stricken daughter Kate remain alive. Kate's reasoning behind forcing her sister to seek the emancipation is because she is tired of the rigorous, painful treatments, the focus that has to be on her 24/7, and the neglect her other siblings face from their parents due to her disease. I have found several first-hand accounts and articles that I have researched to be most interesting because the articles portray the first-hand intimate and personal feelings about leukemia. An example of my findings would be in the article titled Living with Leukemia, which portrays what it's like to experience hair loss and nausea due to chemotherapy. And I quote, "Losing your hair is a weird feeling. Younger kids like to go without any scarf or wig," Julie said. "The junior high girls like to wear a wig. I wore a scarf. As active as I am, just put on a scarf and go." Another patient said, "I was bald for a summer and almost all through the 9th grade, but I wore a hat during school. A few people teased me. It didn't bother me. I knew my hair would grow back." Getting sick, nausea, and vomiting was terrible. Everybody's different, and everyone has different reactions to the drugs. Most of the unpleasant side effects from the various treatments are temporary and disappear when the treatments are over. The side effects only last a while. The life you live lasts a lot longer. Another quote from leukemia victim Cody Crane says, "I felt nauseous 24/7 and went from having lots of hair to no hair at all." I also found this quotation coming from an article titled, "What Almost Dying Taught Me About Living." Still, I can't run or cheer, and that saddens me, but I'll be back on the swim team eventually. I play violin a lot. I do chores around the house, and that feels good, even though my sister complains that I don't do enough. I see my friends every week to go to the mall or a movie. I'm optimistic even though I have to continue the treatments. Life can seem so unfair, but I'll get through this. I've actually gotten positive things out of my leukemia. I'm closer to my family and many of my friends. My parents have been so great. Sometimes, though, I feel guilty that I'm putting them through this. My friends and I talk about my illness, but we mostly talk about regular stuff. I've learned not to care about my looks. My hair has grown a ½ inch, and everyone thinks I look punk. I never have had bad hair days. Strangers say, "Oh, your hair is so cool. I wish I were brave enough to cut my hair that short." I've learned how important it is not to judge people. You just never know what they might be going through. These meaningful accounts argue positive, optimistic thoughts as well as the rough reality involved in the lives of these leukemia victims. I have also found research conducted and reported by the University of Liverpool that has included the difficulties that the parents face when they describe communicating information the doctor has conveyed about the child's condition. Most often, the information is withheld from the child, no doubt for protection purposes, but possibly if the child were to understand fully their potential, he or she could make a decision based on their own personal feelings. You see, the quality of life for children with leukemia is indeed controversial. As I demonstrated in my research proposal, I feel that too often we see children undergoing numerous painful treatment options and testing. Stemming from my own personal feelings and convictions, I feel that following doctor recommendations concerning treatment options case by case are necessary. However, I do not agree with the continuation of rigorous treatments when the cancer has the upper hand and that the child demonstrates no sign of remission. I believe that there comes a point when the children are victim to the brutality of the treatments and often need and want there to be an end to what sometimes can be torturously draining. Certainly, these parents and family members making decisions to treat the child are ultimately to seek remission. They may feel like denial of treatments is fatal and it's as if they were giving up. I believe that terminally ill children would have a much better quality of life in the end without the hospital environment and treatments. My projected vision is that the child should be at home and surrounded by his or her familiar settings because this familiarity can be soothing to the children and promote wellness and relaxation and contentment. I intend on continuing my research because I feel that there are so many different examples of views concerning quality of life for these children. The more information I obtain and add to my working bibliography, the more informed I become. I certainly feel as though my questions have been answered concerning victims' responses to treatments and quality of life. However, I would love to personally interview children with leukemia. That would definitely be something to look into. I anticipate concluding a specific argument about the victim's quality of life, and depending on the individual, the effects of treatments, the quality of life can be different. But as Julie says in the article titled "Living with Leukemia," the side effects only last a while, and the life you live lasts longer. I am venturing to dissect the quality of life and figure out if I agree or disagree with Julie. Thank you for your time today, and I am looking forward to the continuation of my research about a subject that I hold so dear to my heart.